Hey friends, we're going to do a live chat today. Live chat. Can you hear me? Live chat today. We're going to be doing a live chat today. So I'm glad if anybody's able to meet and get in here and connect. Love to have you. So all is great. All is good. We're going to just kind of chat today, answer some questions. And I kind of just want to open up today's discussion, and we don't have to go this direction. It's not, like a hard and fast idea, but I figured that I've been discussing a lot about defense mechanisms lately, and we'll be creating some video content with that later on here in the next couple of weeks. Was actually going to work on that today, and multiple things came up with clients, so was not able to. So definitely make that a reality sooner than later. And it's interesting. So you can ask any questions you want as well. So I'll make sure that I have the chat open. And any sort of links to videos or what have you, George will put that in the comment section. We've been having a little tough time. Buddy has not been feeling very well today. Buddy has a little bit of a paw issue. He hurt himself about a couple of months ago, jumping off the bed, and it's kind of like it's like a ligament type situation in the middle of his paw, and we're just trying to figure out how to heal this sucker, and it's just been kind of challenging. So he's here at the office with us today. Renee, great to hear from you. How are you doing? Hi back, by the way. Good to see you here. Jimmy, great to see you. Great to see you. Glad we're connecting. Yeah, so it's good to have you here. I'm assuming on LinkedIn, and Renee on Facebook. We're talking about ways of connecting today, and I am definitely real. So I am definitely real. My name is Ashley Burgess, and many of you have been following the show for a while. Daniel, great to see you. How are you doing? Great to see you. Good to have you here. And I just wanted to kind of start just talking randomly about just kind of defense mechanisms, just to kind of start and just to kind of, kick it off into what we're doing today and kind of connection. I know that many of us like to talk about narcissism and gaslighting and manipulation and borderline personality disorder. And we can talk about all that in today's show. But I just wanted to kick it off talking about defense mechanisms. I've realized that a lot of us are using defense mechanisms. Some of us have been using them for a long time, and just being able to understand what defense mechanisms we are using. Thank you, Daniel. Yes, I am real. I am here. I appreciate that. David, great to see you. Great to see you. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Yes, I am a real person. But, defense mechanisms are interesting because we have a lot of different things that we're using. Many of us have a lot of defense mechanisms that are used on us, right? And so a lot of times we're trying to figure out what's going on, but we don't really realize that someone is using a defense mechanism and it's making us feel a certain way, right? Or it's, sometimes when we're around folks that have a tendency of just being in complete denial. And I think many of us have met people like that where, you're seeing everything as it's happening. It's right there in front of your face, but that person can't seem to see it. And it seems to be very odd that they can't see it, right? It's very interesting. And, and it's I find like a good example of denial is like when, you've met folks that, they have a great life, things are going well, but their child's not doing good. You start kind of peeling back the onion. You're seeing, okay, the child's doing drugs. There's a large drug addiction. There's all this stuff going on, but the parents are in complete denial. Every single sign is there. Everything's right in front of their face, and they're not looking at it. And that can be something many of us can be in denial on various things. And maybe some people that we're dealing with are also in denial. And it can be challenging because we're wondering, are they refusing to see the truth? And sometimes we can also be in denial on small things, denial about family dynamics, denial on marriage. Many folks have dealt with denial in their marriage, which I think is interesting. So, the denial through the entire concept of going through the process of the COVID. And a lot of people were put together, and they for a long time they've been traveling, they've had their own jobs, they've had their own lives, and all of a sudden all this stuff happens. And it's very interesting how when it's all combined, they start seeing things, and a lot of things that they've kind of repressed or a lot of things that they denied is going on, and then it's full circle technicolor. Another defense mechanism is projection, and a lot of times people project things upon us, right? So it's that misinterpretation of what's inside of ourselves, and it's coming out, we're putting it on someone else. So maybe we project our unwanted feelings on another person. Maybe someone's projecting their unwanted feelings on us, right? Maybe someone's not happy in a relationship. And so they feel that the other person must be unhappy, or they're projecting that as well. Maybe someone's lying and then projecting that as well onto someone else, which I find very interesting. And projection is very big in relationships, and it's something that we have to be aware of, because a lot of times when we're being projected upon, we might not actually realize that that is what's really truly happening. And so that's something to really take into consideration. Another thing that I'd like to bring up is repression. Some of us have gone through traumatic situations, things that we don't really necessarily like to talk about all the time. But repression to me is kind of like sacking those thoughts, putting those thoughts, kind of just sacking them up, putting them away, not facing them, not wanting to remember them, forgetting them, that sort of thing. And it's interesting because the memories are not gone, right? Like there's nothing we can do to get rid of the memory, but we're just hiding that. And when we're hiding those memories, kind of as much as we can from our consciousness, they still impact our life, right? They still impact how we see our life, how we interpret the situation that's happening, how we interpret interactions with people, how we interpret our relationships with people. And that can be something that you've dealt with since childhood. Maybe there was abuse, maybe painful situations, and they impact us, right? Many of us have gone through abandonment issues in childhood. I've worked with many clients that, talk about how mom or dad, left them at the gas station, and, it was a power play. It was a control issue, or mom or dad was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. But having that abandonment, like the real abandonment being left somewhere, and how that impacts us in our life. And those things we can repress and we can sack down. But that type of trauma at an early age, we have to deal with. And I find that these defense mechanisms they help in the very beginning, but unfortunately it ends up turning on us. And what actually helped us in the beginning no longer helps us anymore. And Dr. Marnie, great to have you. Hey, it's great topics. Much needed awareness for victims and survivors. I'm glad to have you here, Dr. Marnie. Always glad to have you tune in. And that's always great. Yes, and definitely, Jimmy, I'm definitely willing to listen to a 70-year-old. I don't think 70 is old, so I definitely think that that's actually a young age. Another thing that I want to bring up for sure is, the concept of displacement, having strong emotions and anger and frustration towards somebody, but displacing that on other people. And I think many of you might have dealt with that in your family dynamic, where you're at home, everything's good, your husband or wife comes home, or your significant other or your friend of yours, and they take out anger upon you. And that can be extremely challenging. Renee, I was in denial a lot, but I have clean almost 4 years. See, and that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. When we were, I think everybody at some point in their life has been in denial. And I think that it takes, a serious, honest, authentic person to agree that they were in denial at some time. And I think all of us have been in denial at something. And I think it's powerful when we connect with that. And so I applaud you, Renee, and everybody else that's overcome situations, because the first thing is denial, right? The first thing is denial, and then we have to go through, a reality and acceptance, and we have to get real with it. And then we work to make changes. But until, while we're still in the concept of denial, there's nothing that we can do. While we're still in denial, we're still denying the truth. Zen and me, great to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's great to have you here. And I think it's powerful that everybody's here. Yes, and definitely everybody asks, questions. Definitely put your questions out for sure. But when we're looking at these different defense mechanisms, it's not, it might be something that we're using. It might be something that's being used on us. Another thing that I find interesting is when people when we intellectualize our issues. And one of the biggest examples that I can use from this is when I'm talking to clients and we're talking about childhood stuff and we're talking about the family dynamic, mom and dad, I find that a lot of times, the way we were raised, especially different cultures as well, talking about one's parents in any sort of negative way or any sort of non appreciative, admirational way is not a good thing, supposedly. And a lot of times, some bad things happen, some negative things happen, some traumatic things happen, but we intellectualize it as if, it's okay now. Oh, mom and I get along now, or dad and I get along better now. And that's great. And I'm glad. But at the same time, we have to realize that that child and the child in us still doesn't get it. We can sit there and rationalize it and intellectualize it all we want. But in that process, we still have to get through that, right? Silk 88, I'm so glad that I found the channel and personal care assistant taking care of client with histrionic personality disorder. That's great. I'm so glad that you found the channel. I'm so glad you find the channel. Jimmy, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So anyway, it is interesting though, because what we're dealing with here though, when we are dealing with defense mechanisms is that there are things that we've used for a long time. And oh, that's interesting, Jimmy. I'm not really sure why you're here if you have some problems with me. So that's fine. If you'd like to continue on, that's great. I can ignore you all you want, but at this point in time, you calling me out truly is weak. I think that's displacement from you. So basically that's a defense mechanism on your behalf. And that's what it is. So I'm glad that you're able to throw back what we're talking about right here in the live chat. So that's great. So we're really showing what's going on. So when somebody really is calling out other people, it's really their own issues. So Jimmy, I appreciate you being able to show us in real time what we're dealing with. Thank you so much. It really helps us because then I don't have to explain it all, really, right? So anyway, I'm glad that I was able to put your comment here on the chat as well. But anyway, I've had enough of the insults, but good. So, when we look at the situation and we look at defense mechanisms, we have to understand not only what we're dealing with our own defense mechanisms, but what other people are also dealing with. And so I think that this is powerful information. Gray rocking is a great solution when we're dealing with other things. And so what I was wanting to do is talk a little bit about gray rocking as well. Randy Kreger actually will be on in the next few weeks. She was going to be on tonight. She's done multiple books. What is it? Walking on Eggshells. Mostly BPD type informational books that are good. She has a new book coming out as well. So we'll be talking with her in the next few weeks. She was on the last radio show. We've had a lot of preemptions on radio lately because of sports, right? So we're back in football season, and that's great. We're back on football season, so we're not going to be able to always have the show on the radio all the time that we want. Usually what happens is they preempt it at the time, and then it shows up later on in the evening, and sometimes on other days because it is football. So we'll be back in the run. I know that our show is preempted tomorrow. And I haven't gotten word yet, but I actually have a physician friend of mine that we're going to be talking about ADD, attention deficit disorder, and attention deficit hyper disorder, and really understanding, I'll be talking about obviously the signs and symptoms. I'll be talking about how it affects your life mentally, physically, emotionally. And then he's going to be able to come in and talk exactly what's happening in the brain, the mechanical issues, what's really happening in the brain. He's done a lot of research in the brain scanning and what have you to really understand that. And it's going to be because that's something that I think is really powerful. There's also a device, and I think it was Dr. Amen, I think. And I'll have to make sure of that. But let me see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Daniel Amen. He came up with brain SPECT. So it's brain imaging diagnostic tool. And so it's very interesting. And actually, the doc that I have coming on in the next few weeks actually has one of those scan actually has one of those in his office. So it's very interesting. So we'll be able to talk about brain scans, what it looks like when you have ADD, what it looks like when you have ADHD, that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be very powerful and very good. Zenami, just wanted to let you know my niece is now gone no contact with her mother. My sister, she called to let me know. So we both disconnected from the narcissist. That's I'm proud of you. I know it's tough, and I know that it's tough for your niece. And in that process, it's great because we have to let that go until that other person is willing to seek help or willing to make changes to the way that they act and respond. Because a lot of times everybody's holding out for false hope, right? We're holding out for false hope, or we keep going into the same situation and expecting something different, right? And that's chaos. And unfortunately, we're not going to get it. So if somebody's not working on themselves and they're not doing the work, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. We can't stand by, at all. So that's the concept there. And so, it is what it is, and I think that it's like when you look at it and you look at the situation, you step back from it. All you can do is safeguard yourself in that situation. And it's unfortunate that she's having to safeguard herself from a parent dynamic, but it is what it is. And I thank you for updating us because and for updating me, because I know that it's tough, but maybe you can both, help each other and walk through this, and anything that I can do, it would be awesome. So I'm here for you. Mike, great to hear from you. It's great that you are here, and I appreciate you connecting here. It's interesting how this live feed is, and so this is good. It's always good to have some great practice, right? It's good. So he'll be on the show, and we'll be talking about ADD, ADHD, and I know that a lot of you are dealing with that, and so I appreciate it. And I'm glad that everybody's kind of going through that process. So we're going to move on here. Dr. Marnie, great to connect with you. Projection, glad you handled that incident honestly and directly. And, sometimes you have to call it out. So I've realized that in life, when someone's trying to derail an entire conversation and derail what is good and a good conversation for people to be able to connect, learn, and grow, that's just not necessary. And in life, we do have those types of individuals, and that's fine. And there's a place for everybody, but at the same point in time, I think that when we're all trying to grow and connect here, sometimes you have to just call it out. And then on top of that, sometimes you have to let go of people that are causing chaos and problems into the group. So I let that go on for about 18 minutes, and I think that was good enough. I gave the benefit of the doubt on multiple occasions. So I think we can move on. So anyway, I do think that, looking at defense mechanisms, I think that there's also some positive defense mechanisms too that some of us are using as well. And one of the things that I've found is being able to take some of that energy and be able to work out and be able to take some of that pent up energy and really focus that into a positive thing. And so there's multiple defense mechanisms that actually do work, and that's powerful. And I think that we can look at those because I don't think every defense mechanism is bad. I think that some of them actually are very good. And I think that some of them actually can really help us because, I find that when you're looking at the positive strategy, I think that it can be positive. And sometimes we don't always necessarily want to share our exact feelings with somebody. And that's where, because we're worried if somebody is going to use it against us as forever ammunition or use it to hurt us in some way. And that's why I brought up gray rocking. George, if you don't mind sharing a couple of those videos on gray rocking, that would be great. I know that many of y'all understand gray rocking totally, but I do want to put it out there again because I think that gray rocking is so powerful in the fact that it really does help us. It really does allow us to be able to safeguard ourselves because there's definitely people out there. There's definitely people out there that we want to share our feelings, that we want to share our deep feelings, that we want to share our thoughts, and that we really care about their thoughts and their feelings. We really do. But on the flip side, it's like there's also people that we have to be careful about. There's also people that we have to be careful in the process of what we say because it could be used against you. Zen and me, my sister just keeps asking my brother about me. Like, have you heard from her? My brother and I speak weekly. I wonder, so why is your sister asking if your brother about you? That's interesting. Could you give me more information on that? Ben, great to see you. How are you doing? Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. So this video, combating narcissistic abuse with using gray rock method, is it's a very good tactic. It can be used with somebody that you've tried to express yourself with. It can be used with somebody that you've tried to express yourself, and they seem to tell everything about you to other people. It can be used to people that you're not really sure about trusting. And I think many of us here, we do trust, we do care, and we do feel confident. But at the same time, sometimes people can do things that can make us, question trust. It can make us question how they feel. It can make us question from where they're coming from. And the gray rock method is so powerful because we're able to express ourselves in a way that we can see what that person is going to do. We can analyze the situation, but we don't put our innermost feelings. We don't put things on the line that necessarily we don't want certain people knowing. For example, if you're dating someone, you don't really want somebody to know because they're going to go out and tell everybody. Or maybe you're going through something that's very challenging for you. You don't really know how to talk about it. Maybe you're dealing now with trauma in some situations like that you're wanting to be able to walk through it, but you want to walk through it in a safe way. You know what I'm saying? Ben, thank you so much. Love all your videos. So helpful dealing. Great. With BPD and MPD, et cetera, your information you share with us is invaluable and priceless. Thank you for helping so many as we are dealing with it. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your words, and I appreciate that. Anything I can do to help out, I'm here. Any other video content that you can think of that needs to be made or talked about, subject matters that you think are important, just let me know, because I don't always know what to do. I don't always know what to create, and I don't always know what everybody's wanting, and that's a consideration with our difficult partners. So many we are dealing with our difficult partners, our family members, friends, etc. is so exhausting, draining, and hurtful. And I totally get it. I totally understand that. And I know that a lot of people have been talking about it, especially during COVID and the situation, and, having to come with the family and getting closer and being around it more, how it has become maybe more draining and hurtful. You are a godsend. God bless you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. And I appreciate your comments and yes, anything that you can think of, because I do want to make life easier for folks. That's why I do what I do, is I want to make life easier. I want to make it simpler. I want to make it, I want us to be able to have the information we know, make the choices we need to make to be able to have that life where we feel good, where we feel light, where we don't feel upset, where we're able to express ourselves, and we're in an environment where we can express our emotions safely. We can listen to other people express their emotions, and I think that's a powerful place to be. Ocean, I second that. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Zen and me, trying to put me in the middle, trying to find out what I'm doing. I have no idea. It makes no sense. She now has told me she has heart fibrillation. Okay. Yeah, a lot of times that could be triangulation. So she might be triangulating the situation, wanting to know what you're talking about, what she's, and being able to know what you're saying to him or how he's doing it. And if your brother's on the right path, I'm sure that maybe he would, because, when we're in the healthy spot, we start connecting and seeing where that's coming from. And, if I was him, my response would be, hey, you probably need to talk. I think rather than going through me as another person, as a third party, why don't you go direct to your sister and talk to her and find out how she's doing? And that's how I would hopefully that's how he's handling it. Robin, Ashley, you're amazing and have been very helpful to me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robin, for tuning in. I appreciate you, and I really appreciate you and your comments, and anything I can do to help, I am here for you. Buddy right now is not feeling good, so we're a little worried. I was talking about earlier his little paw situation, and he's been sleeping a lot, and so I don't have a vet appointment till Saturday morning, but we're hoping he's okay. It's just been a little stressful around here, so hopefully he'll be okay. We're all worried about the bud man, Renee, my brother used to always brag to me about who he was dating. Is that narcissistic behavior? Yeah, a lot of times when someone's bragging to you about that type of stuff, I think a lot of times it's based on insecurity, right? So if I'm going to brag about anything, really, it's based on my own insecurity. If I'm going to brag about my home or my car or the chick, or the guy that I'm dating or, whatever, it's based on my insecurity because, especially with him and the girl, he sees his value based on who he's dating. He sees his value based on who he's dating. And sorry, I don't mean to move that when I move the table, it moves the computer. I don't mean to make y'all like dizzy or, I don't want to do that, but yeah, so he gets his value from that. And so by bragging about that and talking about that, he gets value. He sees his value based on who he's dating. And to me, that can be somewhat narcissistic because he's insecure. And so I really feel that narcissism is based on insecurity, right? And so it's kind of like a defense mechanism that's been created. I actually think narcissism is actually a defense mechanism program that's been created. And so in that situation, the defense mechanism program takes over, and it seems like he's kind of an ass, right? Like he's got this or he's got that, or he's always gloating about something. But I think in reality, he's just really very insecure. And so, yes, I think that can be a narcissistic trait. Renee, thank you. Prayers for Buddy. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ocean, more BPD videos, please. You got it. I will be putting more out ASAP. I want to start talking more about family dynamic, not just relationships. A lot of time I stick in relationships as far as marriage is concerned. I really want to kind of get into the family dynamic, mom or dad and brother or sister type thing. And I hope that might be something that you might be interested in. Thank you, Ocean. I hope that Buddy gets better. We're going to hope. He's sleeping right now here on the couch. So I'll take him home and make sure he's okay and just hope he's okay. Zenemy, yes, and then he'll go to the doctor on Saturday unless I see something unless I need to get him in the early morning tomorrow. We'll figure it out. Zenemy, yes, I agree. Thank you so much. I will not forget how years ago she said, "Don't think I'm going to take care of you." She has no one now who wants to help her. Wow. That it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, though. I mean, it's like, you're not going to don't think I'm going to take care of you. I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so she's not going to take care of you. Well, everybody's left. It's those types of comments. It's that type of thought process. That's the kind of stuff that's just, it's painstaking coming from a parent, family member. It's just, and it's unfortunate because the last thing you wanted to do was leave, and you had to do that. And it's unfortunate because you would like to be able to, a lot of people hold out for that false hope. Maybe they'll change. And now she's told everybody she would never take care of them, and now who's going to help her? I mean, but she kind of created that reality, right? You put that out there, and you tell people you're not going to help them, and you hurt them in the process. That's a problem, and you're going to probably reap what you sow from there. And I'm glad that you stepped back. It's just unfortunate that many of us have had to go through that. Many of us have those type of family dynamics. Dr. Marnie, possible topic: alienation of adult children. Oh, that's good. Okay, positive childhood, then splitting estranged as an adult after targeted parent divorces, alienating parent. I like that. How to cope. All efforts to reconnect failed. Wow, I like that. Yeah, so splitting estranged as an adult. That's great. That's a very good one because there are other folks out there. There's so many folks out there that, whether it's their children, adult children trying to get back with their parents and reconnect, or the parents trying to reconnect with their children. And it can be devastating because the last thing you thought was that your family, I mean, you never thought that you would not be connected. I like that. Can you take that? Can you put in the notes section and on your computer, BPD, more BPD subjects, and then Dr. Marnie's comment. Pebbles, great to have you here. I agree. We're glad to have you. Abby, what is the difference between gray rocking and the silent treatment? Oh, okay. That's a great one, actually. That's a great question. Thanks for asking that, Abby. Okay. So the silent treatment is basically like when somebody uses the silent treatment on you, they're cutting communication completely. So they're refusing to communicate with other people. And in the process of refusing to communicate, in that process of refusing to communicate, they're controlling communication in its entirety. And so they're controlling the communication. And in that situation, they're trying to control you. Okay. So, and the silent treatment could go on for a day, it could go on for a week, it could go on for a year. I've actually, it's interesting. So, folks that live together, I think the longest that I've heard any of my clients dealing with the silent treatment was 3 weeks and 2 days. And they were married and slept in the same room. um, Folks that don't live together, the silent treatment can go on for very long. And sometimes with the silent treatment, when you don't really know what's going on, or you've been so programmed to accept the silent treatment, and you've been given it by one person in particular, you're the one that always goes back and forth, and you're the one that reaches back out. With gray rocking is really okay. So the greatest thing about gray rocking is kind of what I would say when you see a gray rock. I'm a rock person, so I see gray rocks and everything. But when you see a gray rock on the ground, most of the time you're not like, wow, look at that awesome gray rock. It's just you don't really see it. So when you're talking to somebody that might be able to use things against you, like might be able to use what you say against you, or may try to get information from you. So there's folks out there that you might deal with that they're trying to pry to get information out of you, either to use it later or to tell other people about it. The gray rock method is basically like, I'm not that interesting. I'm not going to say a bunch of things. I'm not that interesting. So if somebody's like, oh, what have you been up to lately? Instead of going in and talking about, oh yeah, I'm dating this new guy, or I'm dating, whatever, you're just like, oh, not much, just working. If they ask you more questions, yeah, long days at work, not very interesting. You're basically making yourself very uninteresting. You're making yourself so uninteresting that this person is eventually going to give up, because they're not going to get any information to use against you, and they're not going to get any information that they could tell anybody else, because nobody else is going to be interested about this boring information. So, so basically gray rocking is still, you're still communicating, right? But you're communicating with a guard up. You're communicating with boundaries up, because you've realized that this person is not trustworthy, or this person will use it against you. Zenemy, dagger in the heart. Yes, most definitely, and it is. It's painful. It's painful. And I agree with you. It's a painful process. You never thought that would be with a parent. You never dreamed that. We never got a chance. So we got the parents we got. We weren't able to choose. We can choose our spirit family, but we weren't able to choose our parents. And, unfortunately, and many of us have that. We're lucky if we have two great parents. We're lucky if we have one great parent. And we're lucky if we don't, some of you might not even have a great parent. You might say, well, I have some good friends, we got to look at it that way. But it is challenging growing up with that dynamic, especially because in the dynamic when it was happening, he didn't know it was happening because he didn't know what it was. That's the painful stuff. And that's what makes for the trauma. And that's what makes for the pain. Doug, thank you so much. Prayers for Buddy. Thank you for all the work you've done to help so many of us so well. Blessings, Doug. Thank you, Doug, for reaching out. It means so much to me. And prayers to you, Buddy. Buddy's actually sleeping here on the couch beside George, and we're hoping that he feels better. I know that he's just, you feel bad. You hope he heals. And it's just like, you look at, us as humans, you just pray that everything works out, and do the best you can. But thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. Zen and me, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ashley. Prayers for Buddy, and all will be well. I appreciate that. Hopefully, I'm hoping he's going to be okay. I've been trying to do everything I can, trying medication-wise. I'm going to try to soak his foot. Been doing some, omegas and stuff like that, and just hoping that this works. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. And I appreciate it. Ben, thank you so much. Prayers for Buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And so when we're talking about gray rocking, though, gray rocking can be very helpful. A lot of times gray rocking is good. And I'm not saying across the board, because I have great folks that work with me and we talk about everything. But a lot of folks work in corporate structures where you can't tell your boss everything. I've had some clients that, made the mistake of telling their bosses that they were going to a music festival or Burning Man or something to that effect, and the judgments began right there. Okay, so you have to be really careful because it's your own reason. Um, it's your own reason to go to something like that. You can go to a music festival if you want. You can go to a concert. You can go to Burning Man for God's sakes if you want. I've never been. I've always thought about going, but never been. But when you tell some stuff to people and you don't know how they're going to take it, gray rocking can be very good just to kind of like have the conversation, being kind, being positive, but yet not revealing things about yourself that could be used against you, or things about yourself that there could be a judgment call. Renee, thank you. Prayers for me for Midnight. I hope Midnight's doing good, and I hope Midnight is hanging in there and feeling okay. I know that you've had some stuff going on with Midnight as well, so I am there for you. Anything that you need, I'm here. So that's the difference between gray rocking and I think, if we can look at that, there might be some people that you can use that with, when you're dealing with someone that might be more narcissistic. Using some of those techniques can be very good when somebody's narcissistic in nature, and safeguarding yourself, because a lot of times the information that they're getting from you is not necessarily because they're interested in you, right? They're not interested in our lives. They're interested in using something or having some sort of forever ammunition or something like that that could be problematic later on. I have some videos coming out too. Let's see here. We're going to be putting some more videos out. Lisa's going to be joining me on some more videos here in the future. We've done one video together. We'll have some more out here pretty shortly. More trauma-based stuff. And I think that's a really good way, good direction. I also have a Life After Toxic Relationship series that's coming out. And that Life After Toxic Relationship series, I think is going to be pretty profound. Also have a video, and we're going to be talking about core values in that. We're going to be talking about value-based boundaries. So that sort of thing. Another couple of videos that we're going to have talking about what does it mean to work on yourself. Because I think a lot of people say, hey, I want to work on myself, or I want to make changes to myself. But what does that really mean? What does that really mean in the big scheme of things? And that's something that we're going to be discussing as well. And some core belief work too, because I believe that our core beliefs impact our life. It's such an amazing impact, sometimes good, sometimes not good, sometimes very healthy, sometimes very unhealthy. And we have to really be able to identify what those core beliefs are. But the core beliefs are very sneaky because they kind of hang out underground. They kind of hang out under the surface. And it can be very challenging to find, but once it's found, it can be very powerful. So once it's found, it can be very powerful. And once we find them, there are multiple beliefs, and those beliefs create the reality that we live in. And it's interesting because it's almost like we forget that they're there in that process. And, once we begin to locate those and see it for what it is, we can really do a lot to make some changes, augment the programming, because I think that our life is based on a lot of these. It's all based on these core beliefs, right? These core beliefs were created at a very young age. And at the age that it was created, when we're young, we have very extreme black and white thinking. And so when we kind of walk through that process, it can be very powerful. Renee, I don't know what gaslighting is. What is gaslighting? Okay, that's a great question. Well, gaslighting is interesting because gaslighting is manipulation. Okay. And so that's really what it is. And gaslighting makes you question reality. A lot of times it can be someone doing something nasty and then denying that it happened, making you question your own reality. A lot of times too, it can be about planting seeds of things that didn't really happen, and then coming back and saying, yes, it did happen, or having or saying something did happen or didn't happen, and changing that reality, right? So changing it from happening to not happening, what have you, and making the other person begin to question themselves, right? Because a lot of times when we're being gaslit, right, we almost feel like we're going crazy. We actually almost feel like we are going crazy. And there's a reason for that. Because when somebody's gaslighting you, they're picking on you, and it's an isolating type situation. And then what happens is that they say certain things or act certain ways, make us question our reality. Maybe they even say that we said something that we didn't say, or they said something and we'll go back and say, "Hey, when you said this, I never said that. I don't even know what you're talking about. That never happened." Things that happen, they'll explain a way that it never happened. And when you get around someone that gaslights you enough, and if you've been gaslit enough in the past through family, friends, or not friends, but family or people that were your acquaintances, um, there's a tendency of accepting the gaslighting, and there's a tendency of allowing that to be. Because if we hadn't been gaslit in the past, we probably wouldn't accept it. But on the other hand, sometimes gaslighting can come from such another angle that we're not anticipating, and it doesn't make any sense. And so we begin to question our reality. Well, if that really didn't happen, wow. And if multiple of those situations happen, we begin to question our gut. We begin to question our reality. Once we question our reality, that's when I believe the narcissist has, and there's other people that use gaslighting too. But I believe that's when the narcissist really has a hold on you, because then you're questioning your reality. Once you start questioning your reality and questioning your gut, that's when we get into a slippery slope. And it can be multiple things. Because I talk about, and I've coined the phrase, being in the blender of emotion. Like literally you're in it. You don't know if you're upside down. You get, when the blender's on, you're just, when they turn the blender off, you can't even barely walk. It's like you're in that blender of emotion. And gaslighting is definitely a tactic used to make you second guess yourself. Okay. Anytime that we second guess ourselves, second guess motives, second guess memories, second guess the way something happened, second guess what was said, that's gaslighting. And then a lot of times somebody will keep compacting that over and over and over again in different things, making us question our reality. Zen and me, gaslighting is a narcissistic trait. Yeah, definitely narcissists use this a lot. Yes, definitely manipulation. Anybody that wants to do manipulation, anybody that wants to control somebody will use this tactic. A lot of times it's been learned. It's been learned by mom or dad, right? Coming out of the family dynamic. It was a tactic that was used by one of the parents, one of the family dynamic, and learned, unfortunately, by the child. Mona, you helped me so much more than you will ever know. Thank you so much. I so much appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. And thank you, Mona, I just appreciate you very much. I am going to actually call the Q&A off a little quickly, just because I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to give the vet a call here in just a bit and just see what we got going on, make sure he's okay and that sort of thing. He's just not feeling very well. But I really appreciate everybody tuning in. And let me know, these Q&As, I got some other folks that are going to be coming on some of these, but I'd love to get an idea of some of the subject matter that, the direction. If you want me just to open it up, just to open conversation like this, because I just don't know what everybody would like, and I'm wanting to make it very accessible and open for folks, because I want everybody to be able to ask questions and connect and really feel good about this, because, this is a safe place to be. And I try to take as many precautions, making sure that we have, people in here that, that respect each other and care for one another in the conversation, that, we're able to speak, and be honest and be able to ask questions. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Mona, thank you so much. Zen and me, Renee, thank you. Ben, Zen and me again, thank you. Doug, thank you so much. Abby, Pebbles, Dr. Marnie, Ocean, thank you. Renee, Robin, I really appreciate y'all for Mike and Ben and Silk for tuning in. David Call, Daniel, it's so great to see y'all. And just let me know if you have any other thoughts. And Dr. Marty, thank you. I want you to take care as well. Abby, I appreciate you. And thank you so much for Shed. Oh, it's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, how are you doing? So let me know whatever y'all would like to talk about and connect. And then I will definitely put an update on Buddy on YouTube here once we know, and on Facebook. And hopefully he'll be feeling better. But in the meantime, I want everybody to realize, hey, once we understand what we're dealing with, manipulation, tactics, gaslighting, that sort of thing, it makes it easier for us to understand what's happening. Okay, because the hardest thing is being in the dark. The hardest thing is not knowing. Once we know and we're given the tools to understand, as long as we can step back enough to not take it in completely emotionally and allow it to be, that's when we're able to be successful. And that's when we're able to also, a lot of times, turn around things that happen in our childhood, because a lot of this is like growing up. It's lessons that we're having to learn, but we don't have to go the same path. We can stand up for ourselves. We can put those boundaries into place. We can understand based on our values and creating those values, understanding who we are and defining who we are and what we stand for. And then it makes it a lot easier to be able to stand up for ourselves and over time, as we begin to stand up for ourselves in a positive way, we begin to have more self-esteem, more self-worth. We bring to us people that are also in the same place, and we interact with folks that also have that same connection, which I think is so powerful. K Clock, great for say. I'm so glad that you tuned in, and I hate that you're facing the last stages of your divorce. I really know that that is really challenging. And anything we can do to be supportive here. Going through divorce is challenging, and it's a painful process, and we have to kind of mourn the process, look at it, and begin to move past it. But it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. So, Zen and me, I appreciate you. So helpful. Take care, you and Buddy. Thank you so much. I would like you to take care and let me know how things are going with you. K Clock, let me know how things are going with you. And again, this is a family here, so everybody's tune in. And let's connect next week, and we'll do this again, and let's do a great Q&A and just communicate. I think this is great. Eva, narcissistic parents are the worst, especially mothers with no empathy whatsoever. Yes, exactly. It's supposed to be your mom. Mothers are supposed to have empathy. Everybody's supposed to have empathy, right? And our parents are supposed to have empathy. They're supposed to connect with us. Mike, yeah, that's the worst stage. It's interesting. It's just like we have to connect, and I understand that narcissistic parents are. It's like but once we realize what we're dealing with, and it's sad because you see other people that have parents that are really, they got great parents, but at the same point, you try to surround yourself with a good spirit family. Try to connect yourself with people that are uplifting, just like you are, and do the best you can. And K Clock, we're here for you as well, and Eva, we're here for you. And we'll be back this next week. And any comments that you want to make on directions that you want to go and topics, future topics, we're here and we're there for you. And Ben, have to go to no contact with BPD girlfriend. So isn't it the same as silent treatment? I feel bad having to go no contact. Many lies, promises, excuses she makes not to meet in person. And I get it. The silent treatment to me and no contact are two different things, because if you go no contact and you say I'm going no contact, you've told her that you're going no contact. The silent treatment is arbitrary, and it's only at the control of that person. If you're going no contact to try to safeguard yourself because of the lies and the excuses that she's been making, and the pain that she's been putting you through, that's basically boundaries, right? So it's like, what you're telling me is not holding up. What you're telling me does not hold water. I cannot continue these conversations with these types of lies. And then you say, hey, if this continues, I'm going to have to go no contact out of self-preservation. To me, self-preservation, no contact is very, very different than the silent treatment. The silent treatment is random. And the silent treatment, usually they don't tell you that they're going to do it before. And the silent treatment is used as control. In this situation, I think no contact is out of self-preservation for yourself, if I'm not mistaken. But I definitely would say it. And I know that it might connect with her abandonment issues. If you say I'm going to go no contact, but I think we sometimes have to say, hey, I need to go no contact for myself. I'm working on myself. And, I'm trying to process things. And I think that's a good way of doing it. And it's good to get some distance, because if you're constantly dealing with promises that aren't made and deceit, it's not good to be around. It makes you question your reality. And some of those lies and some of those misdirections could be gaslighting too as well. So we have to connect with that. Prayers for K Clock during your difficult storms. Yes, everybody prays for you. Battles with my estranged spouse about money. I'm trying to be true to myself and not give in. You got to be true to yourself. Don't give in. Just realize the storm will go away. Eventually the storm's going to stop. It's going to stop raining. I know it feels like it's pouring, and I get it, but try to stay true to yourself. Try to recognize it. Step back, analyze it, be right with yourself. Go back and understand why you're getting this divorce. Know it, And because sometimes people will try to change the facts. Sometimes people will try to change it to the best, to their benefit. Just being true to yourself and going through it. Mona, does BPD and narcissism overlap? Yes. Yes. It's you can have BPD tendencies, you can have narcissistic tendencies, you can have histrionic tendencies. Cluster B is very, it's very fluid. So you can have things like, you can have someone that might have a lot of tendencies to BPD, but also have a very narcissistic side. You could have somebody that's just true BPD that isn't narcissistic. You can have some, but they can definitely connect. And and that's where it gets interesting, because sometimes you can miss, you don't understand, am I dealing with this or am I dealing with that? But a lot of times you can understand, even if somebody is, and this is a telltale sign, even if somebody is going through a lot of pain and they're telling you about their pain or their problems, if they're always telling you about their pain or their problems, they're center of attention. Okay. So even if it's like a sad thing, or even if it's a negative thing and they keep telling you about it, but you can't get a word in edgewise and it's always a problem in their life, that's the situation that you're dealing with someone that might have BPD, but also has narcissistic tendencies. A lot of times we just don't see it because we always feel like the narcissist is boasting and bragging and bigger than life, but that's not necessarily the case. You know what I'm saying? So understanding that they can connect there, and being able to see that, and it can really take you off guard. And so when you're dealing with that, I mean, you can try to call it out, but usually calling it out is not really going to work, because oftentimes many people will avoid the fact that they even have that situation. They'll avoid that fact altogether. And then what they'll do is they'll deny it, right? And so then you have that denial situation where you're denying it. And then also, like, it's interesting because when folks deny it, I was going to talk about something if we talk more about BPD, but what is it? It's Darvo. It's the concept of the victim reality. So what happens there is that we have a tendency of, when you're dealing with narcissism and you're dealing with possible BPD, if you call it out, that person's going to find a problem with you. They might say that you're the problem. Okay. So it can be very challenging. If somebody's willing to work on themselves and see it, and you're being able to be conscientiously positive about calling something out, that's one thing. But a lot of times what they're going to say is that if you're calling out something, they're going to call you a narcissist, or you're the problem. They might flip it around to you and become the victim all of a sudden as well. Oh, you're being mean to me, you're abusive, you're the narcissist, this is you're deflecting, you're projecting. So being careful about calling that out is and when you talk about histrionic personality disorder, it's okay. We all have some of these traits, and that's the thing. We all have some of these traits, and it's okay. It doesn't make us a bad person. It doesn't, we can have maybe some BPD traits. We can have some histrionic traits. There can be some narcissistic traits. It's just working on those traits and being able to see it, and then starting to work on the program from where that trait is. So, like, let's say, maybe there's some traits of histrionic. If you find that you're very dramatic and overly dramatic, why do I get into that state of mind where I'm overly dramatic? What's going on? Why do I feel that that's necessary? What's the trigger for me to go there? Start analyzing it. Start getting deep into it. It doesn't make us, having these traits are normal. It's just trying to work within these traits and seeing, where did the program begin? Why am I triggered to act that way? For example, when Renee asked the question, said, hey, my brother says, brags about the girls he's dating or whatever. If he was to actually look at himself and say, hey, why am I bragging about this? Why am I bragging this to my sister? What am I gaining from that? Why do I need to do that? Just like if I get dramatic, like if I have a tendency of being very dramatic and overly dramatic, why am I feeling like I need to crank that up? What is the reason for that? And so I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just, if we can analyze the programming behind it. Why do I go into this? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I exhibiting these types of behaviors? And it's really getting real with yourself, getting really mindful, getting in the moment, analyzing it, writing some thoughts down, connecting. We see it in other people, but it's hard to connect with ourselves. And when we do connect with ourselves, the biggest thing is not to judge ourselves. Just because we're doing something doesn't mean we're a bad person. Just because we're doing something doesn't mean you're a good person. We're human. and connecting with that program. And I think that would, if you don't mind writing that down too, I think that would be a good thing, because I think, working with the programming and catching the programming, yes, we all have tendencies of one of these things. We can't be perfect. And I don't even know what perfect is. I mean, even codependency, there's tendencies, right? Why are we triggered to be codependent? Why are we triggered to accept somebody to walk all over us over and over again? What's that about? Like looking at the different variations of that. If there's BPD tendencies, what are those tendencies? Why do I have that fear of abandonment? Why is it so deep within me? Why do I feel like this person's going to abandon me and I want to push them away, or I want to, or I want to go out of this relationship and jump out, or I want to step out of the relationship because of fear of that? Where is that fear coming from? Why do I choose this choice of action? Diana, I've been in no contact with my mother for 12 years. She never had empathy, was abusive and narcissistic. It was very hard in the beginning with no contact, and it hurts that I will never have a good mother, but it's better to grieve than to stay stuck on what is going on when I was in touch with her. And, Diana, hats off to you, applause. I know it's tough. It's not easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but you know what? The freedom that you get from not trying to fit in, the freedom that you get from not trying to make it work. And it's hard. You don't really have that mom that you would like to have. And we're all here as your support team, so I know it's hard. And I even keeping in touch a little bit, it's all gray rocking, right? There's not much there. You can't open up because you'll get hurt. So my clients has these traits. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is, when you have those types of traits, when they have those traits, it's just working on the programming of it, understanding where did it come from? Where does it start? How does it trigger? This is how we change things. This is how we get into here and understand why we've done things for as long as we have, and stop doing them on programming involuntarily and start really, connecting with the connection of why we're doing it in the first place. For Shed, my BPD is aware of it now and is working on herself. Should I give her a second chance? If she's working on herself, great. But step back and analyze and let her work on herself for a while. Don't jump right back in. Say, hey, I love that you're working on yourself. Let's do that. And let's connect and let's talk. But instead of like getting together all the time, I want to give you enough room and I want to give you enough space so that you can work on yourself. Let her work on herself for a little bit, because what happens is she's got programs with her relationship that everybody does. So, it's like what I talk about couples counseling. I say it's all great, except for the one thing with couples counseling is you got to remember, we come in with our own programming, they come in with their own programming, and then together we create this programming too, this interaction. We can only work on the interaction together in that session. We can't work on previous programming. So all of us have to work on what we need to work on separately, work on that, connect with that, and then come to the table. So it would be good to give her some space and say, hey, I really care about you and I appreciate you and I want you to, and talk to me and call me anytime you need me. And you can discuss it, but you don't want to get in the way of her actually doing the work. And that's great that she is. Let's see if it happens. And if it happens, that's awesome. If that happens, it's awesome. I think anybody that's willing to do the work and anybody that's willing to put the time and energy in, more power to them. Because you know what? If they actually do the work, they're going to enjoy their life, and they're going to be able to see why they do what they do. And they're going to be more mindful, and they're going to be able to try to work on changing some of the things to make their lives better and the people around them, and vice versa. Ben, buddy will be fine. Thank you so much. God bless you, buddy boy. I appreciate you, Ben. Yeah, we're going to check on him. He's sleeping right now. He's sleeping. He's out. Eva, is it evil to say I want to know how to hurt a narc? I want them to just feel the same pain. My own mother, and I understand that it's not evil to say that. But I understand where your pain's coming from and the resentment and the anger. And yeah, you want them to feel their pain, what they give to others, because they give it so easily and so freely. And I understand that there's no judgment here, but I know that you only say that because you're an empathetic person and it hurts you so much what she does. So I get that. And, if you weren't empathetic and you didn't care, she wouldn't hurt you. And so, you're in the right place here. We're here for you. It takes time to get over the anger and resentment. But once you do, it's freeing, because all it does is they don't feel it anyway. They don't feel it. It just, the anger and resentment just hurts us, which is unfortunate. But I'm here for you. I read the DSM. It states the patient has HPD. I work for him. I need techniques to do my job correctly. I get it. What I would do is I'd look at those and I'd really work with him and find out, when he starts displaying some of these signs and symptoms, what are some of the triggers? What are some of the things that are happening? What's going through his head? Get him to be super mindful. Start journaling on these types of things. It's very powerful. Kate Clark, I love the advice to give people time and space to work on themselves. And you got to do it. Sometimes you just got to do that. And that's powerful because if we give them the time and space to do it and we say we're there, we're not leaving them and we're not running away, just remind them of that. It can be very powerful for them because they actually have support to do what they need to do. But we're also not jumping in assuming that it's already done. And it hasn't, because change takes a long time and it takes lots of work and lots of time. So all is good. Everything's great. But over time, we got to walk through that process. So, and we have to give the right amount of time to do what we need to do. And we also need to give them the space, but we also need to know that it's actually really happening and be able to see some of those changes. And I think that's powerful. So, okay, guys, thank you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Let me know of any sort of content. Good advice on the journaling. Yes, get them to journal. Be mindful. The triggers. What's triggering you to be a certain way? What's triggering you to exhibit that symptom or sign from that situation? That's important. I will go attend to Buddy. George and I will be here. Let us know if there's any content that you'd like us to talk about. Eva, you are totally welcome. Kate Clark, you are totally welcome. Thank you. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate you. And in the meantime, we'll be back next week. Let's see here. We will be back next week. I think on Thursday. So Thursday evening, but I think we'll be starting at 7 p.m. So we'll be starting at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Okay. Y'all take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. Zen and me, thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Silk 88. Y'all take care. Thank you for tuning in. Ben, thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all have a great night. Take care. Kate Clark, good night. Y'all take care. Good night.